What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Standard here for a Sultai list. This one, we're memeing it out hardcore, not something you want to play in ranked. If you don't have this card already, I wouldn't recommend crafting it. It's probably a reason that most of you haven't heard of it and never actually see it played. It's not a very good card. Has a super powerful effect, so it's very, very fun to, if you do get to pull it off. But definitely takes some setup to get there. So, Mnemonic Betrayal is a 3 mana, sorcery speed, 1 blue, black. It's going to rotate here pretty soon, so definitely don't craft this if you don't already have it, unless you really want to for some reason. So what this does is you exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards, and you can cast spells from among those cards this turn, spending mana as any type. And then at the end of the turn, those cards go back to your opponent's graveyard, and then you exile Mnemonic Betrayal. So, what we're trying to do here, and this is very similar to the list I ran last season, if you saw that in the last standard, we're leveraging Mnemonic Betrayal with Nyxbloom Ancient, because you want to have lots of stuff in your opponent's graveyard, but then you also want to be able to cast as many things as possible with it. Well, Nyxbloom Ancient triples your mana, which lets you do lots and lots of fun stuff. Alright, so we're running just 2 of these, and 2 Mnemonic Betrayals. Mnemonic Betrayal does nothing in the early game. You really need to wait till your setup. 1 isn't quite enough because it could be sitting on the bottom of your deck. So I definitely like running 2, and you might actually want to cast this multiple times. So 2 copies feels like the right amount. I don't think you'd want on 3. Definitely want on all 4 of these. Nyxbloom Ancient, kind of a similar thing here. It's a 7 mana play. We're mostly Dimir. We do need triple green, obviously, to get to this, but by the time you get to 7 mana, you should be able to get to 3 green. We have some ways, to, obviously, to 2-drop lands and things like that. To get to the triple green to cast this down for 7 mana. It is a 5/5 trample, so it could be a decent body in certain matchups just to kind of help you win games just with the creatures, which I have done. Just kind of winning with the creature with my own creatures. But mostly you want to meme out here, fill up your opponent's graveyard with mill, and then use the Mnemonic Betrayal with a Nyxbloom Ancient already in play, and with the rest of your mana, just cast as many things as you can from your opponent's deck and use it against them. So pretty crazy strategy. Pulled it off last time. Happy to pull it off again before it rotates. So obviously reimagine this list. So it's a lot of the same things, but definitely some different ones. We got a couple new cards in here with the Solemn Simulacrum, 4 mana, being able to 2-drop a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, and then of course when it dies, we get to draw a card as a 4 mana 2/2. So it kind of fits what we're trying to do here, because a little 2/2 blocker, then kind of hold down the fort and kind of stall us out. We're trying to get to that. Get our stuff set up. And the other new card here is Cultivate. This artwork here on the alternate is pretty amazing. Love it. But yeah, anyway, just a good card here. 3 mana sorcery. Be able to search for 2 basic lands, reveal those cards. 1 we can put in the battlefield tapped. The other goes to your hand. So yeah, we need to run enough basics to actually leverage the Cultivate and the Solemn Simulacrum. So we're not actually running Fabled Passage. We're just running the bare minimum, though, of basics, so we can actually get value off the Cultivates. Once you're set up, you don't really need that third, additional Cultivates. So not too worried about that. But by then you're going to have more interesting things to be casting, like Mnemonic Betrayal and stuff like that. All right, so starting off the curve here, we have Overwhelmed Apprentice as a 1 mana 1/2. When it enters, each opponent mills 2, and then you scry 2. You could also run the Merfolk Secret Keeper, because that mills 4. However, that's just a single sorcery, and then you have to play it down again for blue mana to have a 0/4 creature down. But I kind of found that I've actually liked having the 1/2 body, even though it only mills 2 cards. So a bit of a toss-up, but I think just having the 1 mana that instantly gets you a 1/2 body, scries 2, and mills 2 is maybe a little bit better than just the Merfolk Secret Keeper. Milling 4 is definitely very nice. But we do have the Wall of Lost Thoughts, which mills target player 4 cards, and of course we're going to choose our opponent. And then it's a 0/4 defender. We don't care about attacking. We just need a high toughness creature to kind of hold down the fort while we're getting through our late game. We can run all 4 Drownlock, since we are trying to mill out our opponent's deck and fill up their graveyard. So this lets us kill creatures with mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards, total number of cards in their graveyard, or counter a spell with mana cost equal to or less than the total number of cards in their graveyard. Didn't Say Please lets us counter a spell and mill 3 cards. Pretty fantastic. And even though it's double blue, we're fine with that because we're mostly blue, and the black and the green are basically just our splash colors. So we're fine with running a couple copies here of Didn't Say Please, and confident that we can cast this pretty consistently. Ramp and Fixing are super important, so we're going to have 3 copies here of Cultivate. Maybe only just need 2, but it's an uncommon, and it's just a good card all around, so definitely something you should have in your collection. Just 2 copies here of Mnemonic Betrayal. I do feel bad about running Uro, but I think it's just super necessary to get the life gain, the ramp, and the card draw all at once. If you don't have access to this card, you don't want to run it for whatever reason. Land Warrior Visionary is certainly a reasonable replacement. It's a 3 mana 2/2. I believe it's an uncommon. You draw a card when it comes down, and then it taps for green mana. So yeah, there's 2 copies here of Uro, which maybe you could go 3 Uro, 2 Cultivates. Not entirely sure. Basically, I just don't want to play too many Uros, especially with a jank deck. I don't want to have a bunch of Uros, and then we start actually getting matched up against good decks, because our deck is just for fun. We do have 2 Bond of Insights. Each player mills 4, and then you get to return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to our hand. So the fact that it's not an instant and a sorcery, like what you see the red finale of Promise, where it has to be 1 instant, 1 sorcery, it doesn't really care. You just get 2 of those types to get back into your hand. So you can get one of your kill spells back, your Drown the Loch, which you can use as a kill spell or a counter spell. It's pretty fantastic. Cultivate. Maybe when you milled your Bond of Insight, you actually milled on Mnemonic Betrayal, you can get that back. So just nice utility, and another way to kind of fill up our opponent's graveyard. God-Eternal Kefnet as a 1-of feels really, really solid here. We have just enough spells that I think it's worth running, but not enough to necessarily want to run maybe more copies. This card does rotate, so you don't have it, then I guess you don't necessarily need to craft it, but it is a good card, especially if you are interested in historic format at all. This is definitely a powerful card that you'll probably want to have at least 1 of in your collection. For any historic shenanigans, brawl, anything like that. It's just a very, very good card. It doesn't go into anything. Obviously, you want to be pretty heavy on spells, instant, and sorceries. So what this does, if you're not familiar, it's a 4/5 flyer god. So if it dies or it puts in exile, you can put it back in your library 3rd from the top. But the powerful thing here is you reveal the first card you draw each turn, or you may. And if you do, you can copy that spell, and it costs 2 generic less to cast. So we can basically copy our Cultivate and just pay it for a single green mana, and we still have the original Cultivate in our hand, and we just have to pay the green mana for the copy. We can copy our card draw spells and get some nice value that way. We can get a Drown in the Loch copy to keep the original in our hand to kill something. We still do have to pay the blue and the black because it doesn't have any generic cost, so it doesn't get any actual reduction, but we do get to copy it, and it's only a cheap spell anyway, so I definitely got lots of nice value. And then just a 4/5 creature that can kind of hold down your opponent, or be a threat to maybe win the game sometimes. Tamiyo here lets us search for some of our combo pieces, like if we have our Nyxbloom Ancient, but we're not finding our Mnemonic Betrayal, we can +1 to look for a Mnemonic Betrayal if we've milled it somehow, or maybe our opponent countered it, whatever the case may be. We can get it back, same thing, or Nyxbloom Ancient, or just anything we need out of our graveyard, we can -3 to get it back. And of course, your static or passive ability here, the spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to discard or sack permanents, can be pretty relevant in certain matchups as well. We've got the 2 Solemn Simulacrums and 2 Enter the God-Eternals, which is a card that's kind of ebbed and flowed here during its time in Standard. It is about to rotate. It is a rare, so if you don't have it, then you probably don't need it, but it's pretty key for this deck, and I think it's probably might be a good card right now in the current format. So what this does is you pay 2 blue, black, and again, we're mostly blue anyway, so we're perfectly fine with this casting cost. And you deal 4 damage to a creature. You gain life equal to the damage dealt this way, so it should be 4 life, unless your opponent has a way to prevent that. And then target player mills 4 cards. You're going to choose your opponent because you want them to have tons of stuff in their graveyard. And then you amass 4. So you make a 0/0 token with 4 plus counters on it. So you deal 4 damage, mill 4 cards, gain 4 life, and make a 4/4 token. So love the utility here. This is great against any aggro matchups. To kind of help you restabilize. You get a 4/4 blocker. This can be a little bit difficult for your opponents to attack into. And you gain some life, and while milling them, and so all the modes here are relevant. Running all 4 copies here of Into the Story. It's a 7 mana instant speed to draw 4 cards. However, it's 3 less to cast if an opponent has 7 or more cards in their graveyard. We're trying to know our opponent. Most likely this will just be a 4 mana, draw 4 cards, instant speed. So yes, love this value. We need to draw. We need lands. We need creatures. We need spells. So we're not trying to discard. We're not trying to do anything like that. We just actually want to draw cards. And if it's lands, great. That's more stuff for us to get value off of Nyxbloom Ancient and Mnemonic Betrayal, more stuff we can cast from our opponent's graveyard. So we don't really want to discard anything like Teferis or the new Teferi 4 or anything like that. So we want just draw cards. We want lands. We want everything. All right, so mana base here. Maybe 26 is the right number, but I feel like 25 is okay with all the card draw we have, the cultivates, the Uros, and things like that. So I feel like with 25, because it's a pretty tight list because we want kind of all these things in here. So 25 feels, it's been reasonable in the playtests I've done, so that's what. So 4 islands since we're mostly blue, 3 Watery Grave, 3 Tombs, 2 Temple of Malady, 3 Breeding Pool, 1 Temple of Mystery, and then all 4 of the Triomes. Alright, sideboard here. Aether Gust, Negate, Eliminate, Return to Nature, Neutralize, Eat to Extinction, Extinction Event, Sublime Epiphany. Alright, so we want stuff out of our opponent's, into our opponent's graveyard so we can cast it. So we don't necessarily want to be exiling it. However, there are certain matchups where you just kind of have to kill your opponent's stuff so that you don't die. So we have to run, so it's hard to run the double black with like Ritual of Soots, Cry of the Carnivorous, things like that. So we need to lean into more of the single black casting cost spells, so Eat to Extinction, and sometimes you really just need that exile removal to kind of get rid of your opponent's biggest threat. And as much as you love to kind of cast that out of the graveyard, well, if you didn't mill it, then it's better than dying, right? So Eat to Extinction lets us kind of deal with our opponent's biggest threat. And Extinction Event helps us deal with those go-wide strategies without having to worry about having double black for like Ritual of Soots and things like that. So that's why we're running those. And then Sublime Epiphany just can be a nice utility spell in the late game to counter spells and draw us cards and make tokens of our, even if it's just like copying our 1 or 2 mana creatures and milling our opponent even more, that's not the worst thing either. And obviously we need eliminates for the aggro matchups, and the other cards are pretty self-explanatory. Fucking asshole. Alright, against Wish Whisper. Memeing out with some Mnemonic Betrayal. Oh god, that's terrible. Double Nyxbloom in our opening hand. Come on, deck. Alright, this is better, and I think we'll just have to ditch the Tamiyo, unfortunately. Alright, so no untapped blue source, we'll have the Temple. We do have the Cultivate, so we don't necessarily have to keep a land. So I think we should just bottom that. Supposed to have the Scry from the Overwhelmed Apprentice. So we'll play the Apprentice here, Scry, start milling our opponent, see what they're up to. So it's a graveyard deck. Perfect. Perfect, Arena. Thank you. Wall and Drown. I guess we want those cards. Alright, so I'll probably fire off this Cultivate. So just Orzhov life gain. Like, your creatures already have lifelink, but you're running Alchemist Gift. So they probably have a reanimation spell. Alright, fire off you, grab, alright, we have 3 green, so let's grab some blue sources. And hold it back. So Overwhelmed Apprentice has done its job. We'll absolutely block here if they attack. We have Wall plus Drown Loch open to us, and especially once we mill them even more, then the Drown gets even better. Opponent probably just thinks we're on a mill deck. Nope. Surprise. Not trying to win by milling, we're trying to fill up your graveyard so that we can actually cast some cool stuff. Well, they're stuck on 2 lands, so I think we're actually just going to fire off this Cultivate. I don't think we have to worry about countering anything, kind of like a veto or something like that. Main deck Duress. Aren't you special, opponent? Main deck Duress. Well, you don't really need black's not too critical. So I think we'll just fire these off. So there you go. Alright, so we thin the deck pretty nicely. We have the Into the Story available for 4. And we also have Drown to Loch open and 6 mana plus an island coming down next turn. So Timuret is not what we want to see. We don't care about our own graveyard. And that's probably what we're going to be targeting with Timuret. They're looking at ours. I mean, Uro's kind of the only thing that we care about, and even then it's just kind of there for the enter the battlefield value more than anything, and the potential for, you know, escaping it. But obviously it's not really central to our strategy like you see with like Simic Ramp and all that kind of shenanigans. Looks like they got to call the Death Dweller or something. 4-mana open, so they're trying to figure out if they want to exile. Sure, don't care. Don't care about my graveyard. We have a couple things that maybe matter, but it's nothing too critical to our strategy. Cool, you exiled my graveyard. Now what are you gonna do, opponent? I don't have any creatures to exile. You can exile your own graveyard? Please don't do that. They can return it to their hand. What? Not a good card, but I don't want them getting stuff back, so we'll counter that. That's your reanimation spell. It does slow them down, and we're a little bit flooded. Wow, you're gonna hit me for 4. Cool. Alright, into the story. Hopefully we find some juicy stuff. There we go. There we go. Let's get some bodies down. Solemn, maybe double Solemn here? Alright, so we only have 2 more basics left. Maybe we don't need 3 cultivates. I mean, it's something we do want to see, but obviously at a certain point it doesn't really do us a whole lot of good. Now it's just kind of a dead card. Ob Nixilis? Are you serious? They're going to punish us for drawing cards and make us draw cards with that. And we also get to draw a card with the Solemn. You're looking at my graveyard like you can actually do something, but you're tapped out. So... sure. Does our opponent have any good enough stuff to start Betrayal? 1, 2, 3... most of their stuff is pretty cheap, so we could definitely start doing some stuff. They don't have any kill spells for us to get rid of this. Their deck is pretty cheesy, like Lash of Thorns and Disentomb, Elspeth's Nightmare, main deck Duress. We do have EU. Demonic Embrace. Let's get rid of that, and then we can swing into Ob Nixilis here, so they can't keep punishing us. And Temple of Deceit. I think we've milled them a decent amount. Kind of just want Nyxbloom Ancient. The graveyard isn't too impressive just yet. And you can't minus all Ob Nixilis, now it's down to 1. Still has the passive though, where we take damage every time we draw a card, which is pretty annoying, especially since we're down to 12. But we've hit them for 15 cards in their graveyard, so Drown can counter anything. Okay, 2 cards in hand. Here we go, opponent. Can't use Ob Nixilis. Yeah, I still don't know how I feel about 3 cultivates. Maybe it should be 3 arrows. It definitely is nice to have this in the early game, but then once you get to stages like this, and just kind of a dead card, it's a little awkward. Don't really want to adjust the mana base to put too many basics though either, because we are trying to do a lot. Or maybe this should just be like another kill spell or something. Okay, opponent, you can literally do nothing with your deck, with your board state, so please pass the turn if you're not going to be able to do anything. Sweet, our opponent realized they don't have any plays. Took them long enough. Okay, they're going to hit us for 1 for drawing a card. Alright, let's get that off the board so we're not pinged to death. And we do want lands. but we have a lot, so I think I'm actually, this is going to case where I cycle Triome. Another land. Alright, pass the turn. Alright, so yeah, Cultivate, probably the third one, maybe should come out for maybe Uro or something else, maybe removal spell, Murder, or Obnyx Cruelty, probably better, just because it's a single black, +2 to cast it. And just having more removal is probably a little bit better for these creature-based matchups. It does exile, which you don't love, but it's splashable. So they could just run like Eliminate or something like that as well. Or even a third Simulacrum, but then you're kind of in the same boat where you're kind of not able to tutor up basics, maybe. 0-4. That's pretty cool. So now we can't attack. They can Demonic Embrace it. Come on, opponent. Do something, please. Alright, we desperately need to draw something that's not a land. Alright, Bond of Insight. We can get back into the story and drown the Loch. I think that's worth it. Enter the God-Eternals. Mills our opponent some more. Alright, into the story. We do have a drown the Loch though. Let's fire you off. We want to kill the Ox. Just I don't really want to pay. Life, I'm already down to 11, so we'll do that. So we have plenty of blue mana next turn to do a bunch of stuff. So now we'll just hold up and drown the Loch. Here we go. No, that's pretty annoying. Heliod is pretty annoying. So now they can discard to Demonic Embrace. They didn't do it last time, but maybe they do it, so they can swing in. It does give them 5 toughness, which puts them out of Enter the God-Eternal's range, which they can see in our hand now. And they go for it, discarding Finale. So our opponent is full of jank. Full of the jank. Well, we can't block it anymore. We do need to fire this off, try to find a removal spell or something. Tamiyo. Nyxbloom Ancient. We kind of have to get that down. Let's get the Apprentice down and we can do the scry thing. Get back a drown the Loch. Probably don't need another land. Excuse me. We can Tamiyo.
You would make an excellent informant for my study.
Back drown the Loch.
No tail should be discarded.
Maybe they attack our Tamiyo. I mean, we're at 8, so we're not super desperate, especially with them top decking lands. Okay, they see our life total low and they are going for it. Need a Tamiyo off? Perfect.
I will not stand
All
for such
right.
violence.
Okay, I'm just gonna pay the life. I don't really care. I'm gonna destroy you. Cast you. Thank you. Alright. So we'll put a Demonic Embrace on Solemn. Okay. Pestilent Spirit, why not? Heliod. Timorette. A Vampire. Healer's Hawk. Archfiend's Vessel. Does that count? That does not count. I was wondering about that. Alright, Knight of Ebon Legion. Oh, it's Obnixilis. The Pestilent Spirit. What's a Yoked Ox? It's Riding Regisaur. Let's Disentomb. Get back the Nyxbloom. Because why not? Lash of Thorns on you. Actually, probably should have fired off this to get some lifelink, but oh well. We're fine. Our opponent's down to 5. We've got a pretty insane board state. Obnix is going to punish them for drawing cards, which they tried to do to us. Could have a Shadow of the Sky, but they're missing double white. And didn't even see it in their deck. It's a lot of black sources to be splashing multiple cards. What's the white even for? Heliod, Yoked Ox, and Healer's Hawk. I'm not sure that's good enough. Alright, opponent. You're up. Okay. Alright, so against the aggro matchup, I do want some early interaction. Tamiyo was okay, but I think we just need to kind of control the board here. Negates or neutralize. You do Extinction to deal with the Obnix. Don't know if that's super important. I'll just run it back like that. When in doubt, less is more. Alright. Interesting hand. Don't love the Betrayal in the opening hand. But we do have some mill cards, and all of our colors. 4 lands isn't terrible. So we'll try it. We got on the good old breeding pool here, and then we got untap land on 2 for the Wall of Lost Thoughts. Nothing else, we got Bond to start milling, and whatever we mill we can just get back. Alright, turn 1, Knight. Alright, we got the Cultivate now on 3, perfect. Obviously we need a way to deal with that. Alchemist's Gift at sorcery speed, gotta love it. Just to gain 2 life. Alright, so if they find a 3rd lands, they can easily swing in with their knight and pump it up. But our opponent even sideboard. Obnix Cruelty kind of sucks against our Nyxbloom Ancient, so it is a 5/5. So they don't have 3 lands now, which is perfect. Alright, let's fire off this Cultivate. We have a blue and a green source. Alright, Whisper, what do you got? A Rotting Regisaur. That's pretty good. Still can't attack them. We do have a blocker. Alright. So I don't have enough in their yard to fire off this into the story. I don't know if Bond does enough here. We just have 1 spell right now. We have to get pretty lucky with what we mill. So we're going to fire off Kefnet. Play a tap land, so they go. So they get to discarding, which is nice for us. Basically want anything in their graveyard. Another Regisaur. So that's something they don't want to discard. But you have 2 spells, so you're going to have to play something here. Yeah, wall can go. Don't take the Mnemonic Betrayal. Well, if they do, we can just bond it inside it back anyway, so that's fine. Alright, we'll actually kill the knight here, take the 7. So now we got into the story. Decline. Alright, into the story. We hit a drown the Loch, and we have some nice options, and we do. We are good at magic. And we found a Mnemonic Betrayal. Alright, they have nothing in hand. I guess we'll just kill it now, it doesn't really matter. Not anything for haste, so we'll start swinging for 4. Alright, now we just want a Nyxbloom Ancient. Although our opponent now with the top deck mode, they might just concede before we get to that point. We've got these temples to help us scry, and the Bond of Insights as well. We can start exiling stuff from the graveyard so we don't get the Mnemonic Betrayal of value, which is a little lame. And obviously with mana open, they can do it in response to like a Bond of Insight or something. Hopefully they just tap out here and then we can Bond of Insight. And not have to worry about them doing response, but they don't seem like they're the instant speed type of player. Okay, they don't want us having their Rotting Regisaurs. Understood. We'll decline. We'll fire off this. Oh, some nice hits. Well, what do we get? We have the Betrayal in hand. We want to kill that, so we'll grab a Drown the Loch, and maybe just into the story. Yeah, we'll just do that. Alright, we don't want them exiling from the graveyard anymore, so let's get rid of Timeret. Swing for 4. Scry into something. Oh, oh baby. Alright, unless they find a Timeret or some graveyard interaction here, we're in pretty good shape. Alright, so next turn we Nyxbloom Ancient, and then we probably have mana for Into the Story or Overwhelmed Apprentice. And last thing about Kefnet doesn't shuffle, so we can just put it third from the top, and we still get our Nyxbloom Ancient after shuffling that away. So we have to choose between the Nyxbloom draw or Kefnet, keeping Kefnet in the library. But since our opponents got an empty board and they're just in top deck mode, they're probably just going to concede here pretty soon. They can certainly have a way to kill our Nyxbloom Ancient, which would suck. We don't really have a way to protect it right now. Alright, fire off the Overwhelmed Apprentice Scry. Maybe we can find a second one. Another land. Do we want an Overwhelmed Apprentice? We'll keep digging, actually. I'd rather find either a counterspell to protect the Nyxbloom, or I don't know. What do we need here? I mean, if we untap, then we just fire out this Betrayal, and plenty of good choices from our opponent's deck. So now every eternity, killing the only thing they can target. We'll decline. Alright, so we have a Mnemonic Betrayal in our graveyard, so we can get that back. Let's just fire you off. And see what we got.
I will cherish my revenge.
Alright, Vampire's pretty good. Timuret's will do. A Vampire. Ooh, Knight is really good. Duress them. See how you like it, opponent. See how you like it. Alright, we'll fire off this on you. I'll go lifelink. Get some life since we didn't remember to do that last time. Obnix, sure. Disentomb, get Wall of Lost Thoughts, I guess.
I subjugate.
Wall of Lost Thoughts. Mill you some more. And not anything else worth playing except you, I guess, to get more life. And that's exactly lethal. Oh baby. Oh baby. Alright, so this is just a meme deck. Just trying to have some fun with our opponents. Using our opponent's deck against them, basically. We still have some, you know, some reasonable threats with Kefnet. And even the, even the Nyxbloom Ancient as a 5/5 trample. Pretty expensive, obviously, for what it does. But since we're trying to leverage the mana, that's all we really care about. Even anything God-Eternal is making a 4/4 can certainly be relevant. Alright, so the Cultivates, do want to see them often, so I like having 3, but definitely felt pretty awkward with just kind of a dead card. So let's take that out. So we're pretty heavy on 2 and 3 already, so maybe we just run another 4-drop. What do we want here? We got Bond of Insight, Kefnet. I mean, Into the Story is basically a 4-drop as well. So yeah, there's definitely some good options. Let's see. What do we want to mill? I mean, Gargoyle, maybe. It does give you a blocker in the early turns. Ran Jace last time. So you could run Jace if you have it. It does rotate, so I don't recommend crafting it. Since it only fits in like self-mill style decks. We're not really trying to mill ourselves, but it is a repeatable way to kind of mill our opponent's deck. Since it's +1 to target player mills 2 cards, and then we get to draw a card. So mostly just here for the card draw. The fact that the Planeswalker can distract your opponent, but the static ability and the -8 aren't quite what we're looking for. So we're only getting 1 utility out of it, plus the fact that it's a Planeswalker and it might distract your opponent. But it could also make your opponent not want to play with you because I think you're just trying to mill, and a lot of people don't enjoy playing against mill. You know, definitely don't want an Ash out because you don't want to mill your opponent's graveyard. You want stuff in their graveyard. So yeah, there's options. Like I said, probably just like a kill spell would probably be a little bit safer. Maybe just an Uro, I guess. That would be pretty safe as well. But it might skew your matchups towards more competitive decks. Since the matchmaker seems like it kind of factors in some of those cards like that when you're when it's trying to find an opponent for you, which should just be random. So it's kind of lame that they do it that way. Maybe another counterspell could be decent as well. I mean, yeah, there's options. So I guess it's probably how I would run it right now, since 3 Cultivates fall a little off. Definitely want at least 2 to get your ramp and fixing on, and the 2 Solemn Simulacrum is pretty sweet for what it does. And Into the Story, just a powerful, powerful card draw to kind of dig you for all your lands and other pieces you're looking for. And yeah, Mnemonic Betrayal, super fun card. The animation on this is super amazing as well. It's almost worth playing just for that animation. So super, super cool. And this card, happy to showcase it one more time before it rotates. So if you have it, here's a way to use it. If you don't have it, well, hope you enjoyed what it's capable of, and maybe inspires you to kind of come up with something similar. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, make sure you jank with purpose.